Washington is Afghanistan's former ambassador to France and Canada, Omar Samad. He's currently a senior advisor to Afghan CEO Abdullah Abdullah. Ambassador Kurt Volker is the executive director of the McCain Institute for International Leadership at Arizona State University and served as the U.S. permanent representative to NATO under both President George W. Bush and Barack Obama. Also with us is Shuja Nawaz, an author, advisor, and strategic analyst. He's currently a distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council's South Asia Center. Thanks to all of you for being with us. Ambassador Samad, by most accounts, this was a very successful visit by the Afghan president, but take us behind the scenes. How did these two leaders get on, and were there any areas of disagreement or tension?
Overall, over the last 6 months that this national unity government has come to fruition, we see more and more cohesiveness between Dr. Ghani and Dr. Abdullah. I think that there are always obviously areas of disagreement, but it's being worked out in a very civil and professional manner. And I believe that they have shared views, shared outlooks on our relations with the international community. They agree fully on how it should be with the United States. They agree on some major items such as domestic policy issues, fighting corruption, outreach to the Taliban to a large extent, and making sure that Afghanistan is back on track, and meaning that the Afghan people can expect better governance.
Right, President Ghani and President Obama were very much on the same page when he visited.
Yes, I think this visit was a very historic and timely visit in terms of reconnecting Afghanistan and the United States, reestablishing the linkages that had been severe during Hamid Karzai's time over the last 3-4 years, and putting the two countries on the same page. And I think that both sides achieved that objective fairly well.
Okay, Ambassador Volker, President Obama has agreed to delay part of the troop withdrawal from Afghanistan to the end of the year. That's just 9 months from now. Afghanistan, as we know, still faces threats from ISIL, faces threats from the Taliban. What do you think can be accomplished by the end of the year that hasn't already been accomplished?
Well, I think it's the other way around, that it's more a recognition that pulling out so precipitously on a timeline rather than based on conditions on the ground runs great risk. And it's not just the number of forces, but where they are. So we're talking, for instance, about an airfield at Kandahar that's particularly important. So keeping this in place for an additional period of time, I think, is a good step. You have to recognize and welcome this as a positive step. What I think, though, we're still missing is this commitment to success, this commitment to achieving the right conditions on the ground. Well, as long as it takes, for whatever it takes, we can't afford to see Afghanistan slip away. It's doing very well right now. The progress over the past few years, and especially now under President Ghani, is really palpable. You don't want to let go of that.
Shuja, we're also now seeing talks between the Taliban and the Afghan leadership, those talks facilitated in some way by Pakistan. What do you think are going to come out of those talks?
It's not clear as yet. And I think the key is going to be the extent to which Pakistan can actually deliver the Afghan-Taliban to reconciliation talks. After that, I think it'll obviously depend on the Afghan leadership itself. But the key is really going to be how Pakistan can actually bring the core Afghan Taliban to the table.
Right, Ambassador Samad, are we going to see something significant come out of this?
Probably not immediately. I think that there was a little bit of hype at the beginning and overly a sort of optimism that was premature. But what we do know is that there is a change of tone in Pakistan. There's a realization that terrorism in any form or shape is a threat to not just Pakistan but also to us, and that we share that threat, whether we call them by one name or the other, and that we need to do something about it. I think that gives us some hope in Afghanistan. That has opened a window of opportunity for us to reach out and try to see if we can open dialogue. Now, it's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be a quick process. It's going to take time. There are a lot of issues there are a lot of pitfalls along the way. At this stage, we don't even know exactly where, when, and by whom. So we are still very much at the very initial stages of what might turn out to be a peace process.
If I can just comment on that too, I think one of the dynamics that's important is for the Taliban to conclude that they can't win on the battlefield. And I don't think that they have fully come to that conclusion yet. And that's why I think that they drag out and delay and are not looking at a real reconciliation. If they come to that conclusion that through the success of these training of the security forces, more effective governance under President Ghani, that this Afghanistan is going to succeed, then I think that begins to open the door for actual discussions.
But could we get a situation where the Taliban would be quite happy to control just one part of the country and leave the rest of the country to others?
I don't think that would be acceptable to the Afghan government.
Or to Pakistan. I think we should keep in mind that if you conceive of the South or the East as being under Taliban control, that is the worst fear for Pakistan, because then you have reverse sanctuary available to the Pakistani Taliban in the contiguous area. And I think this also underlies the importance of the US delay in withdrawing troops, because the fighting season is this fighting season is upon us now. And so it'd be very critical for the Afghan National Security Forces to show their stuff. And I would even venture to guess that President Obama might be persuaded at some point to further delay if the local commander says that based on the performance of the Afghan forces, we need a little more time. So there may be some grounds for additional delays in withdrawing the troops beyond the end of this year.
Ambassador Samad, I just want to get back to the National Unity Government. And as you pointed out, there is agreement in many, many areas on how Afghanistan will be governed, but there's been also a lot of disagreement, particularly on the appointment of a cabinet. That took a really long time, the appointment of provincial governorships. Are they going to overcome that?
Yes, I think we are very cognizant of this. The Afghan people are, and so are the two leaders. They just before arriving in Washington, they announced the names of 16 more nominees for the cabinet. Only one is missing for the moment. And in the next couple of days, Parliament will start debate on the nomination list. And obviously, provincial governors and other high officials are next on the government's list. So I think it has taken a bit of time for a variety of reasons. One being that this whole concept of the national unity government and shared power is somewhat new in the Afghan context, as well as differences that that emerged during the campaign. I mean, remember last year's election campaign was a very troublesome campaign, to say the least, right. And it left a lot of scars. And I think that what we need to do is to do more to heal those scars and heal them in the right way. So that depends on the will on both sides.
Yeah, Ambassador Volker, of course, John Kerry, the US Secretary of State, played a key role in the formation of that government of national unity. And I'm wondering to what extent the US still has leverage on making sure that these two sides do stay together.
Well, I think we do have leverage because in this sense that we have a stake in the success of Afghanistan. Right. President Ghani, of course, has a stake in that. And the capacities that we each bring to the table are essential for that to be successful, for that to happen. We can't govern Afghanistan. Right. It's obviously for the Afghans to do. The Afghan government nonetheless still needs financial support and security support from outside in order to establish real governance and real control in the country. So it's a mutual interest, and that's why we have a voice in that process.
One other development, Shuja, and that is Afghanistan has for now shelved the idea of buying weapons from India. That must be welcomed by Pakistan.
I think this was a very clear signal to try and build confidence with Pakistan. I've just come back from a week in India, and clearly this is not being seen very affectionately in the Indian capital or among security circles that I was with at a conference. But I think also that this is where Pakistan's performance is going to be tested. And I would not be surprised if President Ghani decides that he's going to give Pakistan a certain amount of time. And he may shorten that time if he sees no movement. And so I think it'll be very critical. China's role becomes critical at the same time,
right,
because China can put pressure on Pakistan to deliver. And there is a quid pro quo. Pakistan is seeking Afghan help in getting the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan leadership that is in the Kunar province and the border region out of there, or eliminate them in joint operations. If the Chinese would want that to succeed too, because these are the same people that are training Chinese militants in the Fatah region, in the border region. Right. So there are lots of other interests involved, and President Ghani's first trip to China, I think, helped lay the ground for that. He will be visiting India. I'm sure part of his job will be to explain to his Indian hosts why he's been slowing down some of the progress in the relationship with India. But India and China, India and Afghanistan have a very powerful long-term relationship. India has been one of the biggest donors and will continue to be.